Finally, I'd like to ask you about social innovation camp.
Well, there's a couple of people came up with the idea of producing social innovation using the web. Well, which is certainly not a new idea, but following bar camps and seeing how much creativity can happen during a weekend. And I would also say there is a DIY mentality that has evolved, and programming frameworks have become much better, much more effective and efficient. So, I mean, you know, you have all these kind of terms that are being thrown around, like, you know, agile and I mean, it's really about, like, you can produce things very, very fast now. And when traditionally government and other big institutions were thinking about addressing social problems, I mean, there's, you know, certainly you can throw lots of money at them, and in some cases build good websites for information about those things. But that was the kind of mentality of the 90s. But for some areas, you could certainly build very, very useful web tools that are inspired by what's called Web 2 techniques or architectures that make collaboration a lot easier. And so we came up with this idea of having, like, DIY social innovation using the web for a weekend and see what comes out of it. Asked people out there what are the major social nuisances, to kind of follow up on that theme. What really annoys you, what should exist. Got lots of people to send in ideas, and then for a weekend we selected 6 teams, developers, designers, the people with the ideas, people with project management skills, and put them in those 6 teams. And it wasn't as strict. I mean, you could move from one team to the other, and ask those people in this weekend to produce a web service that would address a social need. And we didn't have really a clue what would happen. We had ideas about, you know, inspired by the different skills in the team who was planning the event, you know, experiences from Minibar to bar camp to having worked with developers. But we were really quite positively surprised by the end that people could work so productively in such a constrained time frame. Because we also matched people with each other who had never seen each other before. Yeah, and, like, I mean, one project enabled by design was suggested by a person who has a disability, and she was just really annoyed at the, you know, mostly very ugly design she got to help her around the house. And not only was it ugly, quite often it wasn't as practical. So she figured out some social hacks on her own, and initially thought about a website where she could just show those social hacks. By social hacks I mean things like, you know, when you have MS and your fingers start working a bit clumsily, it becomes quite hard to chop an onion. So she found one of those onion choppers where you just hit on them, and well, you don't find them in every shop, so most people probably don't know about them. And then you can just inspire other people by doing that, or you can actually show things that haven't been designed. So right now they're having kind of a matchmaking service online. You know, people have an idea or a need, and they post this on the site, and then they're trying to integrate this with design schools and try to reach out to designers and hopefully disabled people get better design stuff. So that was a very creative idea. The technology to implement it in its first instance was quite simple, but they proved the concept, and yeah, so they won the social innovation camp. The second project is about prisoners and how difficult it is to visit prisons. Yeah, and then there were 3-4 other projects that were also really inspiring, but all of them during this weekend built a prototype. And that was what was so amazing, because quite often it takes such a long time to go from an idea to something that not necessarily works, but prototype shows that it could work. And yeah, to get this kind of initial step going, I think that's what Social Innovation Camp was about, and yeah, this is why it's going to happen again. I don't know when, but Nesta and Yahoo and all the partners we had involved also agreed that it was a success. But most importantly, is that all the people who came were really quite inspired. And you know, you have to think about it. I mean, you are a Drupal developer, or you're a PHP coder, or whatever you do, and you just say, well, yeah, I come along to this weekend, and you know, I'm not getting paid. Maybe I just can do something that I wouldn't do otherwise. And this is what makes people do things. And not only during the weekend. I know of at least the people who were involved with the 2 winning projects. They are still working on them.